My guest today is Gladys Mizrahi. And Gladys is really a fascinating woman because she's done so many things. She is the founder and president of Indigo Events, which is a special event company. They do corporate events, fundraising, social events, all kinds of different things. And she was educated at the English School in Bogota, Colombia, and then at the University of Miami in Miami, where she studied international finance and marketing. And then she founded a top line skin and body products manufacturing company in Bogota called Advanced Cosmetics. And she did that for 15 years. And then after that, sold it and worked as a private investment manager for Pioneer International, which was an international investment company. And she was responsible there for managing private investment portfolios in both Colombia and Panama. And now she is the co-owner of G&G Group, which is public relations, corporate events, Indigo events, and so forth. So welcome, Gladys.
How are you?
I am great. I had no idea you did all those wonderful things. So let me start by asking, because this is a show for women over 50 who are, doing fabulous things and have done fabulous things. What made you? I mean, you couldn't get more diverse. You've got skincare, then you've got financial investments. Now you've got corporate events. So why the diversity of professions?
And you missed something.
Okay, what did I miss?
That I'm currently the commissioner for the city of Aventura.
Oh, okay. So you're into politics as well. I have to tell you a funny story about that, Gladys. Someone was running for the mayor of where I live, and he was able to appoint one commissioner, and he said he would like to appoint me. And I said, why? I said, I'm the most apolitical person you'd ever want to meet. And he said, well, that's exactly why we need you. We need somebody who can, just talk straight and do what needs to be done and isn't biased one way or the other. And luckily for me, he was not elected mayor. And so I said to my son, my political career is over before it began. And my son said, oh, you don't know how lucky you are. So I give you a lot of credit for being a commissioner of Aventura, and we'll include that from now on as well. So out of all those things, I mean, how did you get started? You got a very early start, and but you went from one profession to another.
Actually, I think life threw me down the path. It wasn't my choice, all of it, because if I had really what I wanted to do, I wanted to go to college, I wanted to travel, then I wanted to have my own business, then get married, then have kids, and life did something totally different.
Okay, so tell us about that.
That it has guided me to where I am today. But everything is linked. That's what I've been trying to understand. I did have an early start because when I was 15 in school, I overheard the headmaster saying that he needed the money to build the basketball and soccer courts, which it was a new school and they didn't have. So we used to play basketball and volleyball on sand. And I went to him and I said, you know what? I can raise the money. I'll raise the money for you, but I don't have time to come to school. Because between me and you, I hated school. So he said he was very British. It was a British high school. And he said, okay, you know what? Let's give it a try. And what happens if you don't? And I said, okay, if I don't, I'll stay behind. I don't graduate. And I'll do the year again. So fair enough. We kept it between ourselves because, forget it, not even my parents or the teachers could know what I was doing, that I was not even going to school. And if I passed, I got a B, because that was another thing we negotiated. So for 10 months, I went out into the corporate world. And I went out and literally did a bingo for 1,500 people. At that time, there was no one giving out airline tickets. When I sat down with the president of the biggest airline company in Colombia, they looked at me like crazy. Like, what do you mean I'm going to give you 2 tickets? So moving forward, I did raise the money. And now looking back, it's everything that I do currently at Indigo Events when I call it marketing through events, because it touches everything. It touches the corporate side, the sponsorships, the getting the people together. I had the governor opening the bingo. So now looking back, that was my first event.
You know, that's so interesting. And I hope our listeners are paying attention to this because, you know, my first job was at 13 when I had broken 22 pair of glasses. And my father told me I was going to have to buy the next pair if I broke them again. And we pulled away from the curb. I had just picked up my glasses and he was waiting for me down by the curb. And I put them on the seat of the car and I sat on them and we had not even pulled away yet. And so that was pair number 23. And I mean, I didn't know what to do because the only thing available to the 13-year-old was babysitting, which I did not like at all. And so I said, could I get another job? And my father said, well, if anybody will hire you. And it was the 50s, so I went through the newspaper and people were home. And I started selling Avon from door to door, and I became the top salesperson in our area because number one, I was tiny. Number two, people were home. And number three, when I got in their home and sat down on their couches, I was not getting up until they bought. So it was very, very profitable for me. And I thought, you know, but here you were at 15 and I at 13. And that just goes to show you it's never too early and it's never too late because, you know, we're both still going. You're a lot younger than I am, but you are still creating a force and you're having influence in your community as well as a commissioner. So continue on with your story. So where did you go from there?
So from there, I graduated and then I went to University of Miami. I was 15 and a half. My dad had to sign a waiver and the whole thing. I think I was
I was going to say they don't usually take people at 15 and a half. Yeah.
I was the only one that couldn't go to the bar in UM because I had a little hole in my ID, meaning that I was underage.
Oh, wow.
So moving forward, I met my husband to be. My parents did not agree because I was really young. I was 17 and I eloped.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. Wow. Wow.
I knew what I wanted. So the only thing that kept me a little bit behind was I told you so. So I said to my husband, the only thing you cannot do is we cannot have a bad marriage because I won't hear my mother say I told you so.
Yeah, so you're still married to him.
Thank God, still married.
Wow.
And
so how many years is it now for you?
It's going to be 37.
Wow. Well, you know, it's funny because when I married my husband, my mom disowned me because I was, you know, there were just so many things. We were different religions. He had kids, you know, and all these times they had said, you know, settle down. Now they didn't want me to settle down. Eventually it all worked out, of course, but I know exactly what you're saying about your parents because, but I tell you, it was a brave thing for you at 17 to elope. So was he an older man?
No, not that much older, but we were born and raised in two very different cultures. And that was like it happened to you. It was a big difference. So thank God, one of the differences, for example, was that when I got married, I got pregnant immediately, which
So did I. This is amazing, Gladys. Go ahead.
I wasn't looking for it. So
That's all right. I told my husband, I said, you told me you knew what you were doing. So Somebody else said he
No,
did. This is the way he kept you there.
no, actually, I knew what I was doing. The problem was that I'm the 0.01% that the pill doesn't work.
Ah, okay.
So that was a different story. And the only thing I wanted was after giving birth and getting organized, I wanted to go to work. And my husband's family was actually that family at that time that women stay at home raising their kids. So it was a tough one. It
You
was a
know,
tough one.
yeah, I mean, I went back to work exactly 2 weeks after I had my son, and um, I have to tell you, those are the days of the cloth diapers. There were no, diapers that you throw away. And I got yelled at by the diaper lady because I said to her, "Where do you want me to leave the diapers? Because you want them on the front porch." And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I'll be back at work and I just need to know where you want me to leave the diapers." And because they used to come and pick them up, I don't know, once, twice a week. And she said, "You're going back to work and leave this little baby." I mean, I got really chewed out by the diaper lady. So it's so funny because but I have to tell you something. I had never held a baby before. And so my husband took his vacation and literally showed me how to diaper him, feed him, bathe him, everything. So
Well, I thought I was gonna die because I said I can't even take care of myself. I'm gonna take care of a baby. So I literally took a course. It was professional moms.
really,
Yeah.
wow,
And the guy that I took it with was the creator of the Mommy and Me.
wow,
So
that's
people
fabulous.
looked at me like really crazy, like, oh my God, this nice Jewish girl goes and takes a course on how to raise kids. And of course, Mommy and Me didn't exist at that time. And he had trained a nun to do his follow up. So, me, coming from a Jewish family, goes to a nun and takes his baby. So, can you imagine the gossip, right?
Oh, yes.
And I managed to handle it. And when he was like 6 months, that's when I started working and putting together the cosmetic company.
Ah, okay.
Because my dad, being a plastic surgeon, he invented a cream that is still being used for scars. So he used to take me when I was little just to play around the lab. And when I grew up and I wanted to work in the lab, he had sold some of the stock to the employees. And when I wanted to go in, the employees said, no way, you're not coming in. So I had to create my own lab, the new line of cosmetics and everything. So I made fun of it and I said, I'm putting my dad the competition. And I had it. It was my baby. It was really good. I had 44 products. And that's how I tell you that life guides you because I couldn't compete with the big companies to sell cosmetics. I couldn't compete with Chanel or all the big companies that were being sold. I didn't have the money. So what I did is I created events in the stores for people to come in. And that's how I got the stores going. I ended up having 6 stores. They were facial treatments in the back of the store, and I had 44 products
That's
until
amazing.
the country where I lived decided, the drug cartels, that it was a very good business to launder money through cosmetics. So they were buying lots at a very low price in cash, not paying taxes, and bringing it illegal. So you could find cosmetics, like you can find the guy from not Chanel, it was a French very upscale line. He came and said, I can't believe I can buy my own cosmetics in Colombia for a third of the price. So
Wow.
that's how it started getting really bad. I got an offer and I sold it, and goodbye.
Amazing. Again, our lives are very similar because when I had the modeling business, I had my own line of cosmetics and I did very well with it too. And interestingly enough, um, a lot of the things that they're showing now with the building up of lashes with all these different types of mascara and so forth, I was selling that back in the 60s and people loved my products and loved what I did. And now they're coming out and saying, oh, this is brand new and it makes your eyes look wonderful and so forth. And I was selling that back in the 60s. So, okay, so here you are, you've got the cosmetics, and that's how you started doing events. And then what happened with the investment banker and the.
And when I sold it, I was bored. And a friend of mine said, you're great with people. Why don't you come to work with me? But I had to take all the tests, and I said, you know what, that's not a bad idea. I love people. He was a very nice guy. His company was really nice. I had invested for my kids, like the college program.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what, I'll give it a try. So I passed the test, which was a surprise for me because I hated studying.
Mm-hmm.
I passed it. And I started working with him for 5 years until there was the crisis when we had remember the Russia crisis?
Mm-hmm.
And it trickled down, and then President Clinton was impeached, and then the whole thing, the market went falling down. And I had an old lady that had lost 25% of her savings. And in $10,000, 2,500 was a lot of money.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of money to lose 25%. So I felt so bad that I took the money from my account and put it in her account. And that's when I knew I had to quit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I told my boss, I cannot do this anymore. Look what I just did. Oh my God, he nearly killed me. But he said, you know what? You're really good at the PR. Why don't you stay and help us promote? So what I did is I created events to bring clients. So I was the first one to bring the manager of the Rothschild Fund to speak in Colombia that nobody had heard. So that's how you see how events have been in my life throughout, and I called it that you need to listen to the universe.
Yeah, I can see how it all kind of tied together. Yeah.
I did that for a while until security got really bad. We had to leave from one day to another, and I came to Miami to start over again.
Wow. So when you met your husband, he was American or he was Hispanic?
He was Colombian.
He was Colombian.
Yes.
So both of you went back to Colombia and then both of you moved to Miami. Is that correct?
Well, I met him in Colombia when I got back home from the summer.
Ah, okay.
So
Okay.
I met him. I went out with him all through the summer. And then during that year, he came twice. I went back. And then a year later, we eloped.
You know, it's so funny. I was with a couple this weekend and she was telling the story about she was at summer camp. She was 12 years old and she came home and she said to her father, I met the man I'm going to marry. And he's an older man. And of course, the older man he was 14. And
Okay.
believe it or not, they got married when she was 17 and they're still married today and they're celebrating, I think, I don't know, like almost 60 years of marriage. But it's just so funny because Yeah, I'm 12 and I met this older man who I'm going to marry, and she did. And it's just kind of the way it is. So that's so interesting. So now you were doing these events. What made you decide to create Indigo?
Well, first, when I got here, actually, my boss, the one that I quit because things got really bad in Colombia, he came also to Miami and offered me a job to open the business for him. But at that time, I said, no way, I don't want to do that. So I met this person, and we opened the G&G group together. It was PR and events, and we were doing really well, but we didn't see eye to eye on certain things of the company. So we split up, and then I decided I was on my own. So then I knew what I wanted to do, but it was marketing, events, and PR.
So, I think, no one really who's listening to this has had the opportunity of going to Gladys's office, but I have been. And her office is gorgeous. It's in a beautiful brand new building, and her offices are just spectacular. And you really, and what she does, which is fabulous, is she puts on these little breakfast meetings where she invites a lot of different people. Some are competitors, but we don't call them competitors. We call them people who do what we do. And other people who are in the industry but allied. And they come and people discuss various subjects. And she brings everybody together, which is absolutely fabulous. So that's where you started doing your Indigo events, and now you're pretty much, that's your company and you are on your own, correct?
Yes. And if you're here next week, I would love for you to have, because my topic next week on the 7th is working with millennials.
Wow. Which is funny again, because again, the topic, I was at this past weekend, what's called the VSR, the Veteran Speakers Retreat. And these are people who have been in the speaking industry for many, many years. Some are retired, some are not. You have to be, you don't have to be over 60 to go, but you have to be 60 to be selected as a legend, which I was very lucky to be selected in 2007. But they were talking about the fact that millennials are difficult to work with because they don't really want to work. They want their time off. They don't understand why they have to come in certain hours. They feel that when they've done their thing, they should be able to go. And it's just very difficult working with them and managing them. How have you found working with millennials?
Horrible. In a word.
So, we've got about 2 minutes left in this particular segment, Gladys, but I do think it's important for people who are listening to this, because this is for the over 50 crowd. And you guys are fabulous. People over 50 work very hard and are fabulous.
No, because you know what? They feel they're entitled. When we had to work, and you started at 13, I started at 15, we really put the hours in, and we had to put the hours in. Now they feel they're entitled and they are owned something. They don't have the culture of working long hours or putting the time. I'm not gonna say it's 100% no, because there are really, really some very dedicated. The generation is there, but most of them feel that they're entitled and they are own something.
I have to say, and this is probably on our shoulders, Gladys, because you and I and the listeners, we've created these monsters. You realize, they're not necessarily our children.
They're our creation.
They could, right. They're either our children, it could be some grandchildren, and we have created these monsters. So, it's our fault as well as anybody else's. So, everybody, hold on. We're going to come back. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back with Gladys Mizrahi, and she's going to continue on telling us about her fascinated life. So, hang in there.
Thanks.